Hello and welcome back to another video today here again on Need for Speed Unbound for another car upgrades, customization and racing video, this time taking a look at another of the cars that's brand new for this iteration of Need for Speed, which is the new Nissan Z. To buy this standard would cost me $101,000 if I bought this normal version, which is A plus 215, but I don't have it unlocked yet. But there is a way around this, because if I go onto the Buy Custom Cars tab, you can buy this modified one, which is why mine looks like this, for, well, a bit more, $140,000, without having unlocked the other one. It's slightly upgraded, but not by much. So, well, I think we should see what it's like this, then convert it to standard, and then make our own thing out of it, basically. Because unlike Forza, where I've driven this car quite a lot recently, there are going to be millions of options and things we can do with it. So here we are in our not quite standard Z, because, well, it looks like that, and it's about 40 performance points, or whatever they're actually called in Need for Speed, above where it would be standard. But look, it has actual customization on it. I mean, I'm probably going to take that wrap off for starters, but apart from that, I don't actually mind the look of this thing. I mean, the Z, if you've watched any videos I've done on it before, I already think it's a pretty good looking car. This has actually fixed the weird front grille slightly, this kit. But yeah, it's not quite as fast as the AMG Black Series we looked at last time, obviously, but it's reasonable. It's A+, like I say, so it's not exactly a slow vehicle. So it's slower than, well, no, it's faster than most things would be stock, but then it is a brand new vehicle. Well, this Z is a brand new vehicle, but it is essentially a 350 underneath, so it's actually about 20 years old. But anyway, it has of course got 400 horsepower, that's why it's called, well, that's why people refer to it as the 400Z, and because that makes sense following on to 350 and 370. So it's not going to hang around, but yeah, I think we should go back to the garage, try and put it back to standard if that's possible, or if not, just modify it probably to S-Class, because generally I find with Need for Speed, the car's not going to be competitive if you upgrade it to the top of the class it starts in, if you see what I mean. You kind of have to go to at least the next one, so yeah, let's see if we can do that. So, back to the garage. Well, it seems to have a strange mixture of parts. It's got Elite, Pro, not any of those, but there's no option to kind of put it to standard, and if I'm going to upgrade it to S anyway, there's not really a lot of points, so I think I'll basically do that. So let's see what we can do with it. Okay, so Elite Turbos just about takes it over. If we go for twins, single takes it even further over. So let's do that and then try and tune it back. The only part I haven't managed to get on is the gearbox, because that increases the class number quite massively. I've got my usual draft and near-miss auxiliary nitro on, but let's see what we can do with this. If we bring that down slightly. Is there a way of bringing down the... no. Not unless we do that, basically. So I think to balance that, I'm either going to have to go with a slightly worse turbo or a supercharger. Let's have a look. I mean, we are at 329 now, but that's... hang on. Let's put that where I want it. So that's still S plus with that. If we go for a... I think if we go for Elite Centrifugal Supercharger, we might be okay. Yeah, then we can just tune it back to there, and it's still... unless this... no. Yeah, you just have to tune that slightly back. It's still quite towards handling, so that should be okay. Right, there we go. That should be the upgrades, really, I think. So, before I look at the individual parts, which is usually the way I end up doing this, let's look at the body kits and get rid of this strange design. So, this is the one that's equipped, but we also have the carbon kit, which makes it even more retro with the louvres on the rear window and the actual wing mirrors on the wings rather than the doors, and the wide body and stuff, which I actually really like. Kind of makes it look in the style even more of the old Nissan Z cars. Then we've got Chidori, which is quite insane, but doesn't have any kind of wing, and that's entirely mad. Again, it has the mirrors on the wings, which I do kind of like, but I think pretty much these parts are what I'm going to end up putting on the car. Apart from maybe not a carbon fibre bonnet and stuff like that, but something similar to this I think is what I'm going to end up with. Before we do that, though, the most important bit is to, yes, do that, basically. Not sure what these wheels are. Why is that tyre, like, not quite sure what this has been built for. Anyway, first thing I want to do is get rid of the horrendous wheels. I was going to put the Nissan ones on, but I think we should put the Nismo ones on as they're available. Tyres might need sorting out a bit later. Yeah, it looks so much better with them at the same size, with tyres without tyre writing. Not quite sure on the colour, we might fix that later, but it does look a lot better. Okay, let's start the front. Front bumper, we've got, well, the standard one, which always looks a bit too deep, really. The carbon one, which is kind of cool. That's too much. And that's similar, I think. Oh, it's got a carbon fibre lower bit. I think that one looks best. Hood. View car. There we go. So we've got plain carbon or plain with carbon vents. I feel like that one's actually nicer. I don't want full carbon, so we'll just leave that as it is. Front splitter. It needs something there. Not something that mad, but I don't mind the one we've got, so let's leave that. Headlights is just going to be colour, isn't it? Yeah, so we'll come back to that. Canards. I guess I'll leave them. There's only one option, so not a lot we can do there. That looks weird, bringing it in again now that we've had that. You've got the sort of even more insane ones, or you've got that, or the carbon. I feel like as we've got carbon canards and bits on the bonnet, that might fit a little bit better, in which case we also need to do that on the rear ones. Wing mirrors. Now, I did quite like them actually being on the wings. Although it is kind of weird, because you've got that bit in the front of the window that's then not used, but as it's already slightly retro-styled, I think I might go with those. Probably, though, the more classic-looking ones, yeah. Let's go with that. Yeah, it does look a bit weird at the front of the windows, but I think overall it looks a bit better. Side skirts. Suppose we might as well have carbon to match the other bits. Rear bumper, what does that do? Standard and slightly kind of more aggressive. That's fine as it is. License plate I'll fix later. Diffuser. Okay, it definitely needs something, but I always quite like that style. I actually think the first one's my favourite. It's kind of more simple looking. Go to exhaust. There we go. So, exhausts. If we start again with standard, we definitely need twin exhausts to sort of fill the space there. It's just whether we keep the gold ones that we've got. We've got the sort of facing down titanium, facing up, or the sort of normal titanium. I think the normal titanium twins actually look slightly nicer. Tail lights is just going to be a matter of, they're already quite dark. Darkening them a bit, although that seems to have made no difference. Then it's spoiler, which we can completely remove, which looks a bit odd. Where's the standard Nissan one? I suppose it would be essentially that, but that's a bit weird. Where's the Nissan normal one? Anyway, I'm slightly torn between... That is incredible, but I don't think it really fits the style I've gone for on this. That I quite like. It's kind of classic style. I kind of like what we've got. It's similar sort of... quite simple, but I think if I'm going to go for that, it'll be that one. Or we could just go carbon lip. Which actually, given all the other carbon fibre on here... Yeah, I think I'm going to go carbon lip. Although, that is also quite cool. Right, trunk lid. I think I am actually going to put the louvers on, just because classic look. Roof. Oh, right, I see. Normally it's carbon. Is that carbon? Or just black? So that's painted or black. It somehow looks a bit weird painted, so I'm going to go back to... I'm going to put it back in black. There we go. What else do we do? Okay. So yeah, it's kind of... I think that's everything, pretty much. So it's kind of a retro-themed car, although, like, the mirrors and stuff, and the kind of original inspiration for the design of this is, I guess, on the original 60s, late 60s, early 70s Zeds, but we've got Nismo wheels from the early 2000s. It's got a bit of 300ZX in there as well in the original design, so it's kind of a mismatch of older Nissans in a nice modern package. But I do like that the... So overall, I really love the look of these cars standard. The only thing that needed changing, really, I think, was the front grille, which we've kind of fixed slightly by putting this kind of bit of bodywork across the bottom. So I think overall, looks pretty good. It just needs a fresh lick of paint, maybe change the colour of the wheels, and fix the license plate. I'm actually tempted to go with a really nice dark green, just like I did on the one in Forza Horizon. I think it just suits this car really well. Although, I don't think everyone agrees on that. So that's one option that I quite like. I want a kind of classic colour of some sort, so maybe it shouldn't even be metallic. Maybe I should just go with a flat green. I do also quite like the bright orange. I wonder what that's like in Metal Flake. Actually, this is similar to the one I modified in Gran Turismo, so maybe I should try and avoid either of those colours. Red also looks really good, and in that case I probably could just about get away with keeping the bronze wheels. But then the last car I modified on Need for Speed was kind of a red like this, the Mercedes-AMG, so I'm really torn between all the colours, actually. Actually, that's another option, to go with a sort of classic cream kind of colour, as it's a kind of retro style we're going for. You know what, I'm just going to go for the really bright orange. It's a bit more wild than the ones we've modified before, because it's Need for Speed and there's more options, so a nice bright colour I think works really well. It does mean, though, I need to get rid of the bronze wheels, probably. Oh, actually, it didn't matter what colour it was, because the Japanese car's a really good excuse to use the Japanese plate, which always just looks good on everything. Right, so there we go. I've put a sort of matte metallic kind of silver edge on. Basically, I was trying to match the sort of stainless steel side stroke there, just below the roof, to the wheel edges. I do also really like just black wheels with a sort of silver or chrome lip around the edge, so I think that balances that quite well. And otherwise, yeah, the orange, if you've got carbon fibre, a brighter colour does just work better, actually. So the orange contrasted against the carbon fibre and the gloss black parts that we've got over the roof and at the rear here, I think looks really good. And yeah, Japanese plate always looks amazing. I prefer the kind of simpler styles exhausts. But yeah, we've kind of taken Nissan's retro styling on this thing and run with it, amplified it a bit with the actual wing mirrors and the sort of classic style wide body kit, sort of lightly modified without going too crazy, but still kind of a bit more wild than the one I've modified on Gran Turismo or Forza. Anyway, time to see if it's actually any good. Quickly, though, we need to apply the horn.
Beep, 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 beep.
It's simple, just a nice classic orange. There we go. Oh, and that I put... Oh, that's already on it. Right, that was why it was so much more expensive. Okay, now let's go and see if it's any good. Okay, so as you saw earlier, I realised in the edit that I had been an idiot and left drift entry on. So I actually did a full 3 races with that, and concluded that the car wasn't very fast. And I spent most of the time complaining it was sliding all over the place. So, yeah, that didn't go very well. So, anyway, it's fixed now, so let's see how it performs in an S-Class speed list. So rather unusually, somebody was setting up an S-Class speed list pretty much straight away. Although not very unusually, there's only one person in the race, the person who set it up, plus me. But they're in a GTR, so all-wheel drive Nissan versus rear-wheel drive Nissan, essentially. So when I tried it before, when I got the handling settings wrong, I was against a McLaren and lost all 3 races, basically, so... As long as I win one of them, I'm doing better this time. Although this GTR is not quite at the top of the class, so... This is so much nicer to drive. Under my head. Make sure you set your tuning to handling, everyone. Or to turn brake to drift off, I should probably say. It just shouldn't be on by default. The default should be off. And if you really want to, you switch it on. Because I think, as far as I know, the majority of people don't enjoy it. The amount of complaints I see about the handling. But anyway. It still does that a little bit, but... And just like that, we've won the first race, so it's already doing better than before. Unsurprisingly. Okay, race 2. Let's see if we can win this as well. I mean, to be fair, the GTR isn't top of the class, and the McLaren I raced before probably was, but this car does feel a lot nicer as well. All-wheel drive launch, though, is still far superior. I don't think it matters, because... Thank you for not murdering me as I overtake, as most people probably would. Okay, although that was... Never mind. Don't know where he's going. And just like that, I'm going to win both of them so far. Right, one more to go. Okay, last one. Can we make it 3 for 3 and win all of them? Which is quite a big contrast to before, but like I keep saying, it's not necessarily a fair comparison. There's only one other car. This GTR is probably a lower class than that McLaren. I can't remember what the McLaren was exactly. But yeah, it's one driver in one car I'm going up against, so it could easily be slight difference in driver, slight difference in other car. But it feels nicer, even if it's not. It must be faster like this. Just I crash so often when it's sliding everywhere. I am really pleased though, because I was thinking it was a real shame, because this is... How this has turned out is now one of my favourite cars I have in this game. So I was thinking it was a real shame when it had lost everything that I probably wouldn't want to use it in a race ever again. But it was just me being stupid, so... Now that we've fixed that small setting, I can crash into things again. But no, now that I've fixed that small setting, it's absolutely fine. I was slightly surprised that it was so bad, because most cars in this game feel very similar, because it's Need for Speed. So yeah, super pleased if I can use this thing, because I'm really pleased with how it turned out. Not that, as I keep saying in a lot of these Need for Speed videos, I do much racing on here, because I genuinely don't really enjoy it. And it's kind of fun to test a new car, but as just a race to race in, I don't really do it. I prefer modifying cars, which is basically what Need for Speed is all about. But by quite a long margin, I'm going to do it, I think. Unless I crash into something, making it 3 for 3, 3 wins for the Nissan out of 3. Which is, yeah, huge contrast to before, just with one setting. But yeah, super pleased that this thing is better than I initially thought it was, because I really want to actually be able to drive it and race it occasionally. And that is going to do it for a very first look at the Nissan Z Proto here on Need for Speed Unbound. A cool new addition to the Need for Speed series, obviously with a lot more customization than we've seen for this car in the likes of Gran Turismo and Forza Horizon, so a lot of fun to properly customize this thing. Originally I thought it was a shame that it didn't handle very well and lost all 3 races in that first speed list, like I said, but as I saw in the edit, I'm an idiot and I forgot to tune it to get rid of brake or gas to drift. So once that was sorted, it was absolutely fine, but yeah, it's not really a true test of it. Both speed lists were only against one car, quite different cars, obviously different drivers in the other cars, so it's not really a fair comparison, but it did perform better with, well, all of that annoying physicsy stuff turned off, and won all 3 races, which, yeah, is a happier note to end on than what I thought it would be. So there we go. That is going to be all for today's video, taking a very first look at this new car here on Need for Speed. So thank you very much for watching. Let me know which cars you'd potentially like me to look at next here on Need for Speed Unbound, and I'll be back with the next video very soon.